I am your host, Erick. For this episode, I'm joined by Aurora Krotoa Moses. Aurora is a South African CEO and founder of Aurora Kaleidoscope Movement and global ambassador of Theirworld and alumni of Future Elect, an organization that, quote, is empowering a new generation of ethical leaders and active citizens in South Africa. If my notes are correct, Aurora is doing all this while earning her bachelor's degree from the University of South Africa. She's also the focus of the 2023 Carl Collison documentary, Aurora, Beyond the Boundaries. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Without further ado, hey, Aurora, and welcome. How are you?
I'm good, and you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really grateful that we got a chance to connect a few weeks ago. I will not focus on your age too much. I'll try not to, but I just think it's amazing that someone as young as you are is doing the work that you're doing. So it's a reminder to me that I, of course, can look to the people that are ahead of me, but it's just as important to look to the people who are behind me as far as age to learn from and to grow. So thank you for your example in that.
So I'm Aurora Krotoa Moses. I am an Indigenous South African. I'm 23 years old. I've also been for 4 years a independent human rights defender, trying to bring the voice to the voiceless. And I do this by limited to no resources. I'm just trying to shine the spotlight on issues, especially the LGBTQIA plus community and Indigenous people in South Africa.
Yeah, I did, as I said, get a chance to see your documentary. Yeah, it just really expanded my curiosity about learning more about the Indigenous communities in South Africa. I've been to Cape Town twice and once to Johannesburg, but of course as a visitor. And although I'm able to go to museums and see those types of things, I believe it's more important to hear it from people who are from there. So thank you so much for that introduction. And I definitely look forward to learning more about that. Before we continue, where are you based in South Africa?
I am based on a farm outside Stellenbosch. So I'm based in a rural area, but also not that rural. And I've grown up all my life on the farm.
If my notes are correct, you're currently enrolled at the University of South Africa?
Yes, I am currently enrolled. Actually, I was supposed to finish this year, but due to other things, I will probably go over into next year, just the beginning to finish my degree.
We are recording on a Saturday, so how's your week been?
My week has been very stressful, especially with how the world currently looks. I actually volunteer for Beyond the Margin as the social media manager, and I have been having the conversation with the CEO of the organization and how things are currently in the world. And it's been putting me through a roller coaster of emotions. I took a break and then also trying to build the organization, also having meetings here and there. So it's been quite a tough week for me.
It's good to hear that you're doing some self-care and recognizing that.
Yeah, especially what we see on the news, how things are currently towards transgender individuals and non-binary people is heartbreaking.
If you could share about your own organization, Aurora Kaleidoscope Movement.
The Aurora Kaleidoscope Movement is going to focus on women specifically and transgender women and non-binary individuals. It's in line with what I stand for because I am the founder. And also we will work in Africa, so it won't be specifically within South Africa. We will focus on empowerment, economic empowerment, doing partnerships and collaboration. We're still in the founding phase, so we're still trying to find this NGO, but we do have strong board directors that is really committed to the mission and the vision of the organization. In the beginning, it was a struggle to get people to believe in the organization, but I did find a few people to sit on the board.
When did you found the organization?
The organization has always been something I've been thinking of. Also, I did a program through Young African Leaders. There was a project, part of the program, there was a project that we had to do on building our own organization or our own initiative. I did that research in that, and that's how it's busy becoming a reality. There is a few supporters of the organization, people I've met through Future Elect that is also supporting from the outside. So,
did you found the organization before or after you started going to university?
I started in 2021. I started studying at the university, and then I moved into another degree into politics. Then I moved back to the psychology and criminology. I did think that politics is the route that I would take, but I started re-evaluating what I really want to do. But in the future, I do want to finish both degrees.
Generally speaking, we can all see things that we know need to be improved upon, need to be better for every citizen, regardless of who we are. I think what makes me interested in you is that you're doing it. Where does that desire come from? Where does that drive come from to do what you've been doing?
I am a survivor of rape and sexual abuse that happened in my 7 years that I was of age. I started seeing professional help in what I went through, and through that professional help, psychologist session, basically my whole high school years was me going to sessions, just trying to deal with everything. The drive really came from discovering myself. I went through discrimination by church leaders, the church that I thought that is my home. They treated me like I am an outsider. In my last year of 2020, I came out in high school as a transgender person then, because I was firstly identifying as non-binary, still figuring out who I am. And I was the head student of the school. They didn't want me to grow my hair as it is. I was very disheartened by the way they were treating me, say things in front of the students to me. I didn't have anyone supporting me. Not even my mother was supporting me. She was just telling me to cut my hair to protect the peace. I went to the Department of Western Cape Educational Department. They sent out a psychologist that really heard me, and they were told to accept me. And that's really where my drive for activism and standing up. And I told that psychologist, I'm doing this so that no other trans learner after me in high school can go through what I'm going through. I wasn't even asking to use the bathroom that aligns with my gender identity. I was just asking, allow me to grow my hair the way I want to. And that's also why I have my afro. It's like a statement of, I am me, and I'm not going to allow anyone to tell me who I am.
Thank you for opening up in that way. You mentioned the church, the way that they were treating you. Was that because of the sexual abuse?
It was because I was busy looking into what the Bible means for me as someone that is part of the LGBTQIA plus community. And I would share it knowing that they are on my Facebook, and I shared just article where it kind of brings the interpretation together, what it means to be LGBTQIA plus and Christian. I was part of the church band, and I was told, for the best interest of you, we ask you to leave the band. I continued going to church, and also my social worker then, I kept on telling her, like, I have this shield almost up because I'm ready for them to attack me. I'm ready for them to tell me something about who I am. She asked me, do you always want to have this shield up? And I said no, because also they would start telling me it's better to be celibate. Your friends are influencing you to be who you are. For years, I've always known that I was different. I tried to suppress it. Yeah, I just couldn't anymore. I couldn't allow other people to dictate who I am as an individual.
There was this suggestion of celibacy, something that was supposed to occur during, the time at school. This is because you had been open with them about, being a member of the LGBTQ plus community.
I've been open to them about my experiences of attraction. That's how they explained it to me then, attractions to males. They even tried to take me to psychologists. I went on certain seminars. And so they also wanted to almost like put me into a Bible study to make sure that I know that the Bible is against it. They were like giving me books and reading. I think it's God is Good book. That's one of the books they were telling me to read because she went through celibacy, or she decided to go to marry a man even though she has attractions to women.
What is your relationship today to religion or to spirituality?
Currently, I'm more spiritual and leaning agnostic. I don't subscribe to any religion. I took it upon myself to look into every religion, and I saw that the universe, or some people call it God, is really just love, and you need to experience life on earth. Through my research, the Bible actually doesn't condemn homosexuality.
What I feel so far in this discussion, this conversation, is you're a natural born seeker of the truth, of information. What were some of your passions when you were growing up?
I've grown up very isolated. The church I went to, none of my family went to. I've always been someone that is an introvert. I've always known that I love being alone. I've always been someone that is curious, especially when that realization came that you are different. That's really where the spark in me lit.
I'm also an introvert, so I can relate to that. You said realizing you were different. We all have a certain age or memory. For you, when was that?
People made me feel different. I've always been different to people, and they would call me derogatory terms. One of it is morphe in South Africa. Really, people made me feel different. I would walk a certain way, I would talk a certain way, and they would call me, insulting me. Once my mother told me basically, morphe doesn't stay in the house. So basically to say that gays doesn't stay in the house. It's people that made me feel different. So that's when I realized that I am different. And what really made me realize that I might be born in the wrong body. I don't like actually saying that. In secret, I put on my mom's dresses. I would put on heels. and I would walk in the house alone, and I would love it.
I really like the way you described that when I asked the question, because yeah, that's exactly it. When I can look back 4, 5, 6, I didn't have the language, but it was the reactions of other people that were kind of giving me, not kind of, they were giving me clues like, oh, they see something and they feel something that's different from them. I really like the way you described that. You mentioned growing up on the farm. What kind of farm did you grow up on?
So it is a strawberry farm. Out of seasons, the farm is closed. Then there's no one on the farm. Mom was a lot in work, so mom wasn't that present. I have a brother. He was also bullied. So I really had to build this thick skin to protect myself and to tell myself it's okay to be different. I think that's also where the fight is coming. That fighting spirit in me comes from having to rely on yourself.
I've never been to that part of South Africa. I just know it from the wineries and the vineyards. I wasn't aware that there were also other types of produce there. So you mentioned strawberries, but it makes sense because what I know or what I've seen in South Africa reminds me of parts of California and Arizona where I'm from, where that climate would be good for that type of produce.
So it's like not a lot of strawberry farms, but this is one of the big ones in this area.
So just to focus again on your career or what you're doing as far as advocacy, you're also a global youth ambassador for Theirworld. What is the organization and what does that role entail?
It entails for equal education, but my focus that I want to focus on within South Africa is LGBTQIA plus inclusive education. I only got approved last year, December, so I'm still navigating the platform, but there is potential for them to support projects that I want to start, funding or resources that I can give in that regard. The ambassador position is for 2 years, but I can, after 2 years, extend it to 1 more year. Definitely, I will use that platform that I have on a global stage to really give a voice to the young Auroras and the young people that face difficulties in education.
What you've shared so far, as far as first and foremost, your own experiences in South Africa, for me, it's a reminder, similar to the US, countries in Europe, we do have laws on the books that protect us, but our day-to-day living, that can still be a challenge. So, you sharing your experiences is a reminder of that. Because I know I've had people outside of the communities say, oh, well, you have your rights now, things are better. And it's like, well, do you really know what you're saying?
The lived reality of a transgender individual is harsh. Your expression doesn't align with how your documents look. You would face discrimination to get a job, to get access to certain things. Even going to change your document at Home Affairs, you face discrimination. And that's also one of the issues that I have been pushing from my side. With my limited resources, I've approached the Gender Equality Commission in South Africa. So I've been trying to assist in any capacity. I would love to collaborate with others. That's also something I've noticed is like young people are kept out of certain rooms. In South Africa, I actually had this conversation with someone. It's being seen as non-experienced because of our age or because of our affiliations or having no support at all. So our voices are not heard sometimes. Also, accessing gender-affirming healthcare in South Africa is difficult. There is a waiting list to access it. I have to travel to Cape Town to get my pills to drink daily. I've been on gender affirming care for about 3 years. Why can't I get at my local clinic? I know of someone that is from a far away place, also in the Western Cape. She had to travel to Cape Town. It's like, I don't know how many kilometers, but it was quite a lot. I just wish that there is that option of accessing healthcare, gender affirming healthcare at my local clinic, or to have a mobile clinic actually deliver it. The healthcare is actually not seen as essential or primary healthcare. So I know there is certain organizations working on this. I want to also assist there.
So many individuals move to the bigger cities, like you mentioned, Cape Town or Johannesburg or wherever we're at in the world. But you're, for yourself, but also for those that are coming after you or with you, saying, no, I want to live where I'm at and still have those same benefits.
Like, I should be able to go to any home affairs to go change my gender and name at the same time. On paper, it says I am supposed to do that. When I went to go to Stellenbosch Department of Home Affairs, I was misgendered firstly. I was told I can only change one, which cost me money, and it cost me doing admin. And then I was treated so awfully. I was told the letters from the doctor, it's too short. They bring up excuses to not even help you. It really needs to be implementation of the laws and the rights, especially it will benefit the whole LGBTQIA plus community.
I was able to find a few articles about you, some of the journey that you shared about that process. Is everything as far as your documentation, has that been taken care of?
In 2022, I did my gender, so that I got out of the way, but then my dead name was still there. And because of that experience, I didn't have the courage. Yeah, it wasn't a pleasant experience. Just being told the whole time, and then I asked for assistance. What should I write here? Should I say yes or no? I get told, read. They treated me like they're doing me a favor, where it is their job to do so. It was just an awful experience. And then only last year, I went for my name change. Out of my own, I wrote to the Department of Home Affairs committee. Somehow that sped up my process. But I know that there is transgender people that have to wait for very long for their process to get done. Someone that I had a conversation with that is aware of these things, they still keep your old ID number there. So it's not really that you transition, it's just that they will still have you as a male on their documents. So that's also an issue.
If it's okay to ask us, what would you say to somebody who is ready to start this process? I don't like the word bravery. For me, that minimizes this. How do you stand in that moment and say, I'm not going to let you keep me from being who I am?
I don't want anyone to go through it. And I just want to actually tell that person, be yourself. It will be a tough journey, especially in the context of South Africa. Reach out to people like me. I will always be available to assist. Where is resources? Where is clinics that you can access? And love yourself through the process. There will be a lot of emotions. Being yourself is so liberating.
Thank you for that. Something else that came up with you changing your, I think if I'm describing it correctly, your race classification, that was very intriguing to me. I've spent most of my time that I visited in Cape Town. I can wonder as a Black person, as a Black American in particular, how I may be perceived walking about. And as far as race classification, it's different than the US. There's Black and then there's white and then there's color, but you changed yours from colored to, I believe, is African. Can you share about that journey and what started it?
I've been digging deep into my heritage. A lot of the Indigenous history is lost. It's part of my reclaiming who I am. That was part of it. I was questioning certain things. Why am I called a color? Why is this title there? I went deep into my heritage. Like, I don't have a problem with anyone identifying as colored. It's just that the word and how it came, I don't like that. There's actually no law that states what a white person or Black person or colored is. The university couldn't prevent me from requesting them to change that on their documents. It's really just to give a voice to my ancestors. Yeah, so I'm also very connected to my ancestors, trying to connect with people that is part of the Khoikhoi community. So I've also come to a point where I realized that sometimes I'm not going to get the answers because my ancestors has been killed or they passed away. I have a lot of questions, but I also realized that a lot of it was wiped away through what happened in South Africa. I'm also very connected with the Indigenous communities. There is this one, the Kuna Arts Institute at the Good Hope Castle here in Cape Town. My middle name is legally Krotoa. Krotoa was part of the Indigenous community.
This last time I was most recently in Cape Town was this past between June and August. I went to a couple of the museums more about the history. It's not the same, but there's some similarities I picked up on from being from the US. Like you mentioned, so much of history of people of African descent in the US was just stripped away so soon, intentionally, because if you don't know who you are, then you can't stand in your purpose. I sense that from you is like this desire to reclaim, to find out, to own who we are. And I say that too, because spending time in Europe, the reason why a lot of Europeans stand and walk a certain way is because they know who they are, and they know who they are because they know their history.
Not knowing your history, it's an uneasy feeling. To my ancestors, I believe that they are very proud of me for being that voice. At some point, if they spoke their language, they were killed, or they were called a Busman. There is also derogatory terms towards Indigenous people, but some of us have reclaimed it.
Being the voice of our ancestors, I never thought of it that way. The knowledge that you're learning about yourself, your culture, it's given them voice. Yeah, I really like the way you put that.
It's also why I'm actually in the process of writing a book, also exploring my life journey. That's still in the beginning stages. Yeah.
You have a really great way of speaking, because I also write. And so I was curious about whether you write, and hearing that you are working on that project. It's great to hear.
It's an exciting project. I realize it will take me back to a lot of things. So I'm still exploring the ins and outs of how that process is going to work.
Maybe when I'm back there in South Africa, if we meet in person, finding out how that particular journey is going for you. You know, you are being recognized with the way that we've connected, but just in South Africa, because of your passion and your voice, I would say probably other places. Yeah, I saw that your portrait was one of the art pieces by Selvin November that was on display at the Cape Town Heritage Museum, December 2023. What was it like for you to be approached for that?
Like a lot of people, Carl is also someone that just approached me through my Facebook. And they're just like, we want to do a portrait or do something. It really makes me proud. It makes me go into that of my face is representing, again, my ancestors. This journey, I've always thought of it as it's not my own. It's a collective journey. Even though my face is there, it's still a collective journey. You can probably see my great-great-grandmother in me.
That's a word that stands out to me with so much wisdom. And now it's coming out and being shared with the world.
I'm not as close as I want to be to my ancestors, but I also realize they flow into my blood and they're with me every day. I'm very grateful that I can do what I'm doing and I can be this voice.
How do you consciously, at this point in your life, celebrate who you are?
Today in my life, I still face a lot of battles, a lot of silent battles that I'm fighting. I just try to be someone that is a role model. It does get better. I feel whole, not where I am, but where I want to be. And I feel like I have figured as much as possible about myself. And that's really how I celebrate myself. I also take myself on walks in nature to just be one with myself, especially within this week and how chaotic it has been. I really find wholesomeness in going outside and just breathing in the fresh air. Also, I like walking barefoot on the farm. It's like grounding myself as well. I like taking breaks from social media completely. So it's really important for me not to go through a burnout.
You mentioned walking barefoot, and that was one of the visuals I really liked throughout the documentary. It was beautiful. It was just, there was something spiritual in the way that was captured on film. I really liked that.
That returning to your beginning, returning to who came before you. That's part of the symbol for me.
You're a woman of many talents and interests. What else is next for you?
There's a few things that I'm trying to work on. Currently in my life, I'm busy with a lot of courses to give myself that knowledge of the things that I'm trying to follow through with. I want to also build the business. As you know, unemployment, or you might know, is that unemployment is an issue here in South Africa. I really want to open a business that will give jobs to LGBTQIA plus people. And that kind of intertwines with the economic empowerment that I want to, that space for that. Through the book, I maybe want to look into shooting a movie because there has been people that have been asking, like they want to actually know my whole story. So that might be a project, and we will have to look into getting funding and all of those things for that.
I perceive you as somebody, I don't know how much of it is conscious, who is natural on camera. And I know for myself, even though I moved years ago to Los Angeles to pursue a career as an actor, it wasn't until I started doing this podcast 3 years ago and a year and a half into it that I recognized that that is a gift to learn how to share your story on camera. And I think you do that very well. So I definitely look forward to seeing how that unfolds for you.
Thank you.
Of course, there's a beauty outside, of course, but there's also this beauty on camera that comes out from what I've seen of you. So, yeah. And thank you for joining me. I definitely was looking forward to this one because again, for myself, who's older than you are, I was like, I am learning so much from this young woman just on what I read so far. And again, a reminder to me to, a friend of mine used to say, look everywhere where I can find my answers and my solutions today. And I definitely feel that from you. So thank you so much for that. I always end with asking if you have any final thoughts or insights.
I really enjoyed this interview, this podcast. Actually, I really just want to tell a young person that is probably watching this that just be who you are. I know it will be difficult. There will be challenges. I still face challenges. Love yourself. That's very important. The love for self is absolutely important. It is a constant journey because of all my challenges and hardships. My self-love was almost like ripped away, but I want to say, like, it's something that I'm working on, and I have come to a point where I absolutely love myself, and I've taken my power back from the persons that was perpetrating onto me. And also, it's okay to some days not be okay. It's really okay to go sit in a corner or to just want to be in bed and to just be with yourself. Being with myself really has made me love myself even more.
I really appreciate that. Where can we engage with you or follow you online when you are online?
My LinkedIn, I am Aurora Krotoa Moses. So I'm also on Facebook and I'm also on Instagram. Yeah.
So again, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really not a social media person, so I don't know my handle of my head.
As far as self-care, emotional, mental self-care, it's probably better. I'm aware, but to be entrenched in that, it would rip me up, and that wouldn't be good for me.
What is happening in the US will now go down into Africa. Politicians are trying to push for more banning marriages and LGBTQIA plus families. There's something happening in Namibia. I also saw what is happening in China, where LGBTQIA plus community people can't be on TVs. What makes me scared is what will happen. Like in South Africa, already like see on certain comment sections, people saying like, we need a Trump in South Africa. A lot of NGOs is saying that a lot of funding is also, they feeling the squeeze in the NGO sector about with funding. So the clinic that I go to is also partially or fully funded by USAID and the US people.
Thank you for spending time with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends too. You can also follow us on Instagram at Our Black Gay Diaspora and on Twitter at BLK Gay Diaspora. Until next time.